hey, just a couple of quick tips about daffodils and how to increase the flowering and how to make them grow better. Tip number one, make sure that they are not crowded together. Space them out properly. So if you're planting new, just make sure your spacing is correct. They should be probably 6 inches apart at least. If you want to plan for the future, plant them a little bit further than that, because they will multiply and then they will start to expand into each other. But make sure that the spacing is correct, because as they crowd each other out, then they steal nutrients from each other. They steal all the stuff they need to grow and flower. And so you'll get plenty of growth on the leaves of the daffodil plant, but you won't get flowers. So that's tip number one. Number two is fertilize. The more you fertilize the plant, the better it grows. And specifically, you want to fertilize with the middle number, and fertilizer should be high. That your NPK are your 3 nutrients they usually put on fertilizer. The middle one is potash, and the best fertilizer for that is bone meal. So if you make sure when you're planting, and then periodically put some bone meal around your flowers so that the bulbs can suck that up. Bone meal is good for the bulb part of the plant. The more energy the bulb sucks up while it's growing, the next year it has that energy for flowering. All right, and then third is just where you're planting. As I've said, the daffodils will grow anywhere, but the more sun they get, especially early in the morning, the more likely they are to encourage flowering. So you can plant them in areas that are shaded, but the less of them will flower in shaded areas. You have to work harder to make them flower in shaded areas. The more sun they get, every flowering plant likes sun, so the more sun they get, the more flowers they get. So those are the quick tips. So let's get to digging up some flowers. So one of the great things about daffodils is that they are animal resistant. Specifically, if you have a problem with deer, you can plant daffodils. Deer will not eat daffodils because it'll make them sick. And also, if you have plants that the deer try to attack, surround them with daffodils. Oh no, here come the dogs. If you surround the plants with daffodils, then the deer will stay away from them because they don't want to accidentally eat the daffodil plants. All right, where are the dogs? They're crazy, they're going crazy. Here they are. Hi, Diamond and Rio. The goal is to plant enough daffodils around this edge so that the voles that are running around out here in the yard, I get voles all over this yard, and they mostly stay out of this bed because they run into the daffodil bulbs, but I need to put more bulbs in to create a wall of daffodils in order to keep them out of there, because they've killed off a couple of plants. A couple of my rose bushes have been killed off by the voles. So I need to put some more. But then this year, this bed up here next to my teacup is gonna get daffodils planted. That's where I'm gonna put a lot of these that I'm gonna dig up, is up in this bed. It wraps all the way around up there, and I'm gonna plant daffodil bulbs. I'm just gonna scatter them, but I'm also gonna put them all around the edges. But I'm also gonna scatter them here and there in this bed. And then I still have to put some up here because I started planting up on this hill. The last couple of years I started planting up on the hill, so I need to put daffodils up there, and I need to put more daffodils around. These are hydrangea bushes. I'm starting a hydrangea garden in here, and I need to put more daffodils in there to keep the deer and the voles. This one's mostly deer that get into these, and if the daffodils are up in the spring, then the deer stay away from the plants. So I just need more of them around there. Hey, so real quick, what do you do with daffodils? So that's a good question. Well, daffodils are beautiful flowers, and one of the best things to do is you can cut the flowers, put them in a vase, bring them in the house. That's a great usage of daffodils. Now, let me give you a couple of warnings. Number one, don't cut all the flowers in one area. If you have a group of flowers that are in one area, you don't want to cut all the flowers from that group, because when you cut the flowers, it may stunt the growth of building energy in that bulb, so that next year you may not get a flower on that bulb. So you want to make sure that you cut like one flower out of a group, leave the other ones there. And that's why planting a lot of daffodils is a good thing, because then you have plenty of choices to cut flowers from. All right, secondly, you want to watch. Now, there aren't a lot of other flowers in your yard that are probably growing at the same time as daffodils, because they're an early spring flower. But if you do have other flowers, you don't want to put daffodils in the same vase as other flowers. The sap from the daffodil stem will cause the other flowers to wilt. So you want to watch that. Keep the daffodils by themselves in a vase. If you've got some other greenery or something you want to put in there, that might be okay. But you don't want to put other flowers in the vase with the daffodil, because it could cause the other flowers to wilt quicker. So that's a couple things you need to watch. All right. So I'm going to dig up this group of daffodils that they're poked up through the ground, so they're starting to grow. So I'm going to dig these up real quick. So the best time to dig these up and split them is actually probably in the fall, or the summer or fall, after they die off and go dormant, or once the greenery. You can do it in the spring, right in the early summer, late spring, when they die off and they're going dormant for the summer. You can dig them up then. That's probably the better time to do it, so that they have the rest of the summer and fall to establish themselves. But like I said, I've never had a problem with daffodils surviving transplants at any time of the year. Daffodils are pretty resilient, so you can pretty much dig them up any time of the year. Okay, so now we're gonna do some planting here, and I just want to show you real quick. What I like to do is just lay out the bulbs. You can see I've got the bulbs laid out all along the row here. I'm going to plant these along the edge of this bed. I'm trying to keep the voles from going in the yard into the flower beds. So I'm planting them. I'm going to plant these a lot closer. There's already one row kind of more in the grass here. It's very close to the grass. And so now I'm going to move it further back in there and make a second row. The more daffodils I can use to create a wall here, the better, and that way I can try to keep the voles from going into my flower bed. This is the end of the rose garden over here, so I'm trying to keep these voles from attacking my rose bushes again. All right, So what I'm doing is, I've got this planter, and all I'm going to do is, where I have these bulbs spaced, you basically just step down on this planter. It creates a hole. You throw the bulb down in there, and then you can take the dirt and kind of spread it back over the hole. You just take the dirt out, put it right back over top. So it's just a matter of push down in, create a hole, throw the bulb in, turn it over, dump the dirt out, put it back in the hole. That one's done. So this doesn't take that long to do. Each one I can do in less than a minute. So I can go around this, the ones that I just dug up, I got about 50 of them. So I can probably get these planted in about a half hour, really. So, or less. It's probably 20-30 minutes. I can get all of these bulbs planted along this row and try to keep the voles out of my rose garden. So I'm going to keep digging up bulbs from over there that are too compacted. I'll dig them up. I'll move them over here along this row and create my wall of daffodils to keep the voles from the yard getting into the flower beds. So, another question that somebody might ask is, how deep should you plant the daffodil bulbs? And generally, 4 to 6 inches is a good depth for daffodils. The general rule for planting bulbs is to plant them about 4 times the depth of the size of the bulb. So if the bulb is about 1 inch, like a daffodil bulb, it should be 4 times that, or 4 inches deep. So the daffodil bulbs generally are 1 to 1.5 inches, so you want to be 4 to 6 inches. 1.5 times 4 is 6 inches. So that's the best way. And that's why one of these planters like this works really well. It's a bulb planter, and because this will plant things 6 inches deep. It'll make a 6, if you go all the way down to the stop here, it'll go 6 inches. Alright, so I hope that this video has helped you learn a little bit more about daffodils, how to take care of them, how to dig them up, how to replant them, or just how to plant the daffodil bulbs, and some of the uses of where you can plant your daffodil bulbs and why you plant them in the way they do. If it's helped you, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and leave me some comments about what your daffodils look like. I'd be interested in seeing some.